Everyone wants speed. We live in an era where waiting 5 seconds for a website to load feels like an eternity. If you've upgraded your computer in the last few years, or if you're rocking a high-end machine like an M1 Ultra Mac, you know that snappy feeling. Your computer turns on instantly. Your apps jump onto the screen. Large 4K video files move like they're weightless. That magic is powered by the SSD, or the solid-state drive. It is the undisputed king of performance. Marketing teams tell us that the old mechanical hard drive, the HDD, is a dinosaur. They tell us it's loud, it's slow, and it's obsolete. But here's the thing they don't tell you in the Apple Store or on the Best Buy floor. That dinosaur technology has a hidden superpower. There is a very specific reason why, even in 2026, professional data centers and video editors still buy mechanical hard drives by the truckload. Today, we're going to look past the shiny cases. We're going to dive into the physics of how your data is actually stored. We're going to talk about why the SSD is a teleporter, why the HDD is a vault, and why, if you aren't careful, your lightning-fast SSD could be a ticking time bomb for your most precious memories. To understand the war, we have to understand the veteran. The hard disk drive, or HDD, has been around since the 1950s. While it's gotten smaller and much denser, the core physics haven't changed in 70 years. Think of an HDD as a microscopic high-speed record player. Inside that metal box is a stack of circular platters made of glass or aluminum, coated in a thin layer of magnetic material. These platters are spinning at incredible speeds. In a standard drive, they spin at 5,400 or 7,200 rotations per minute. That means the disk is spinning around 120 times every single second. To read your data, a tiny mechanical arm with a read-write head flies across the disk. This head doesn't actually touch the platter. It hovers on a microscopic cushion of air created by the spinning disk itself. We're talking about a gap thinner than a human hair, thinner even than a particle of smoke. Here is the problem. Physical things take time to move. When you ask your computer to open a file, the HDD has to physically move that arm to the right track and then wait for the spinning disk to bring the right sector under the head. This is called seek time. In the world of modern computing, this is a disaster. Your CPU is capable of billions of operations per second, but it's sitting there, tapping its fingers, waiting for a mechanical arm to move a few millimeters. This is why a computer with an HDD feels laggy. The spinning wheel of death isn't a software glitch. It's often just you waiting for a 1950s record player to find the next song. Then came the SSD. Solid state means exactly what it sounds like. There are no moving parts, no platters, no motors, no arms, no waiting. Inside an SSD, data is stored in NAND flash memory. Imagine a massive, invisible grid of billions of tiny electrical cells. To store a piece of data, the SSD controller traps electrons inside these cells using something called a floating gate. When your CPU wants a file, it doesn't wait for anything to move. It sends an electrical pulse to an address on the grid, and the data is read instantly. Because electrons move at nearly the speed of light, the seek time of an SSD is effectively zero. This is why your Mac feels so fast. When you boot up, the SSD is providing thousands of pieces of data to the CPU simultaneously. An HDD can only read from where the head is physically located at that exact millisecond. An SSD can see the entire grid at once. It's the difference between walking through a library to find a book and having the entire library instantly beamed into your brain. So, if SSDs are faster and have no moving parts, they must be more durable, right? Well, yes and no. On a physical level, SSDs are tanks. Because there's no head to crash and no platter to scratch, you can drop an SSD while it's working and it won't care. If you drop a spinning HDD, the head can slam into the platter, gouging a permanent scar into the magnetic surface. We call this a head crash, and it is the leading cause of death for external hard drives. For anyone who travels or works on a laptop, the SSD is the clear winner for physical toughness. However, SSDs have a different kind of wear and tear. Every time you write data to an SSD, you are physically pushing electrons into a cell. This process slightly wears out the cell's insulation. Every SSD has a life expectancy, measured in TBW or terabytes written. Eventually, those cells will lose their ability to hold a charge. Modern SSDs are smart. They move data around to ensure the cells wear out evenly, but they are effectively a consumable item. They have a finite number of heartbeats. This is the part of the script where we need to have a serious talk. We need to talk about what happens when things go wrong. When a mechanical hard drive dies, it usually dies loudly. You'll hear a clicking sound, the famous click of death, or the drive will start to slow down significantly. This is the drive's way of screaming for help. The secret advantage of the HDD is that even if the motor dies or the arm breaks, the magnetic data on the platters is still physically there. It's like a book with a broken spine. The pages are still readable. A data recovery specialist can take those platters into a clean room, put them into a working donor drive, and almost always get your files back. It's expensive, but it's successful. When an SSD fails, it usually happens in total silence. You'll go to turn on your computer one morning, and it simply won't see the drive. Recovery from a failed SSD is an absolute nightmare, and here's why. Trim and encryption. To keep an SSD fast, it uses a command called trim to actively erase and garbage collect deleted data so the cells are ready to be used again. In an HDD, deleted just means hidden. In an SSD, deleted often means electrically purged. Furthermore, modern SSDs, especially those in Apple Silicon Macs, are hardware encrypted. The map of where your data lives is handled by a controller chip. If that specific chip fails, your data is just a scrambled sea of gibberish. You can't just move the chips to a new drive because the encryption keys are gone. For an SSD, death is usually permanent and instantaneous. There is another monster hiding in the closet, cold storage. Many people think the best way to back up their life's work is to put it on a fast SSD and stick it in a desk drawer. This is a massive mistake. SSDs store data using trapped electrical charges. But electrons are tiny, and insulation isn't perfect. If an SSD sits in a drawer without power for 2, 3, or 5 years, those electrons can slowly leak out. This is called bit rot. You might plug that drive in 3 years from now, only to find that your 4K video projects are corrupted and unreadable. SSDs are designed to be used. They need power to maintain their health. Hard drives, on the other hand, use magnetism. Magnets don't leak like electrons do. A high-quality HDD, kept in a cool, dry place, can hold its data for a decade or more without ever being plugged in. When it comes to long-term archiving, what we call cold storage, the old-school HDD is still the undisputed champion. So, where does that leave us? Should you throw away your SSDs? Absolutely not. The secret to a professional workflow is a hybrid strategy. You need to treat your storage like a team, where every player has a specific role. The SSD is your worker. Use a high-speed NVMe SSD for your operating system, your applications, and your active projects. You need that speed to stay productive and keep your sanity while editing. The HDD is your vault. Use high-capacity mechanical hard drives for your backups and archives. Because HDDs are so much cheaper per gigabyte, you can afford to buy 2 of them for the price of 1 SSD. A backup isn't a backup unless it exists in multiple places. My recommendation? Keep your active files on your SSD. Back them up daily to a large external HDD. Then, once a month, clone that HDD to a second one and keep it in a different building. If your SSD fails, you lose a day of work, but you have your backup. If your backup HDD fails, it's a mechanical device. You can likely pay a professional to rescue it. The SSD is the future of performance, but the HDD is the anchor of reliability. Speed is a drug, and it's a great one. But don't let the rush of a fast boot time blind you to the physical reality of your data. Understand the physics, respect the hardware, and for heaven's sake, back up your files. I'm Sal, and now you know.